guys, what's up? Zijin here, and this is the Bluboo Maya Max. It is a very cheap 6-inch phablet. It has some pretty decent specs. It has an MTK 6750 processor, 3 gigs of RAM, and it also has a really big 4200 mAh battery. And this is a really big phone. The screen itself is 6 inches big, which is really big, and it's a little bit bigger than the Nexus 6P and the Galaxy Note 7. I'm not a fan of big phones. My current phone, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4, is 5.5 inches, and you can see that this phone right here at 6 inches is a lot bigger than the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4. That being said, let's get down to testing of the Bluboo Maya Max. I never thought I would call a 6-inch device compact, but the Bluboo Maya Max is a compact phablet. It is physically the same size as the Galaxy Note 7 and the Nexus 6P, even though both those screens are bigger. The phone is 8.3mm thick, which is thicker than usual, but nothing too crazy and is understandable when you have a huge 4200 mAh battery in there. However, this phone is still huge. I find it almost impossible to use it one-handed. The build quality of the phone is nice. The bezels are metal and you find the hardware buttons and an iPhone-style alert slider on the side. The back of the phone is metal as well and it feels really nice in the hand. However, the camera does stick out from the back of the phone and that is a pet peeve of mine. The phone is also rated at IP63, meaning it's dust-proof and water-resistant, so I sprayed it with a garden hose and it still worked fine. The display is 720p, which is quite low for a 6-inch phablet. I mean, most phablets nowadays are at least 1080p, with others like the Nexus 6P and the Note 7 rising up to 2K. But resolution aside, the display looks really nice. Colors are reproduced very vividly and the display is accurate as well. There is some glare on the screen, but it's not bad because of the OGS display. There is also a blue light mode that cuts down on glare, which is bad for your eyes, and it comes in really useful just before bedtime. Although it looks like there are stereo speakers on the bottom flanking the USB port, there is in fact only one speaker on this device, and the volume is okay. It's not too soft, but it doesn't get insanely loud either compared to the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4 that I just tested. The audio quality is actually really decent for smartphones. Mids and highs are decent, and surprisingly there's bass as well. Here's some sample audio for you to listen to.
For the last 3 years, I have served as troop leader of the Pawnee Rangers. This is our handbook. I wrote the whole thing myself. When people get too chummy with me, I like to call them by the wrong name to let them know I don't really care about them.
That's a genius move.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Lester.
Hey there. Is there a project you're working on?
I know more than you.
All right.
Reminds me of when my dad made me choose which of my pet calves to slaughter with my own hands for my 6th birthday. I couldn't choose, so I slaughtered both of them. And they were delicious.
The 4200 mAh battery is really big compared to Samsung and Apple's, but not that big compared to Redmi Notes and, Ulefone powers. However, this big of a battery pack should provide great battery life. I performed the web browsing test and it lasted for 9 hours and 21 minutes, and the video playback test and it lasted for 12 hours and 31 minutes. Those battery results are definitely impressive, but they still fall behind what the Redmi 3 and the Redmi Note 3 and Redmi Note 4 are able to achieve. In fact, it's not too far off from the Nexus 6P and the Galaxy Note 5, which is concerning. Thankfully, real-life battery use immediately puts a significant distance between itself and the more expensive phones. I could easily get 6 hours of screen on time no problem over a 16-hour period, and I could play Pokemon Go for a long time as well, about 5.5 hours before the phone gave out. This phone is also quick charge capable as well, and is able to charge fast as well. So even if you're a light, heavy, or medium user, you'll be able to get through a day with this phone no problem. The Bluboo Maya Max runs Android 6.0 and there is a light scan on top of it for the launcher, and it is easily replaceable with Google Now Launcher. The fingerprint sensor is located on the rear of the device, which is something I've always thought of as the better place for the fingerprint sensor, but I question whether this was the right decision in this case just because this phone is so big, so it's going to take a lot for you to reach behind the phone just to get to the fingerprint sensor. However, the sensor itself is definitely fast enough and accurate enough for daily use, so that in and of itself is not an issue. The new MTK 6750 processor, coupled with 3 gigs of RAM, is able to run through basic multitasking pretty well. I was able to use many apps without any problem and without any slowdown, and I could multitask pretty effectively, but it was slower compared to the newer Xiaomi Redmi Note 4. Gaming was also pretty great because there's only a 720p resolution to push, so I was able to play any game on the Google Play Store, such as Modern Combat and Real Racing as well. The phone got quite warm during gaming, almost uncomfortably so that is concerning. However, it only gets slightly warm for less intense tasks than games. Scored about 48,000 in Antutu. I was using this phone on Fido in Canada, and network connectivity is very decent. 3G and HSPA Plus connectivity is rock solid. LTE is less stable. I actually spent about the same amount of time in LTE as I did with 3G and HSPA Plus. In certain areas it gets much better with Chinese phones, and other times it does get worse. Speed tests yielded some pretty decent LTE results as well. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS all work very well, but GPS jumps around quite a bit, which is not very good for Pokemon Go or maps. But this might actually be desirable if you want to, play Pokemon Go without actually leaving your house. The Maya Max is obviously aimed at selfie lovers with an 8 megapixel front camera. The rear camera itself is 13 megapixels and takes some pretty good pictures in good lighting conditions. You get some nice colors and pretty detailed photos as well. However, the autofocus is pretty slow and takes a long time to focus. In low light, the camera actually loses quite a bit of detail, and the front-facing camera suffers from these same problems, even though it's 8 megapixels. Selfies are detailed in good lighting conditions, but low light performance obviously makes the pictures look worse. There is also software and features included in this phone to help you with your selfie game, such as stuff like Bluboo Snap, which pretty much makes your face look better. I'm not a huge selfie guy, so I don't really use much of this functionality, but it's there if you want to. Video recording on the rear camera is not bad, detail is there but it's not excellent, and colors are there but they're not vivid. The Bluboo Maya Max is one of the most pocket-friendly large screen phones you can get at this point, and the smaller bezels help it compete with the Nexus 6P and the Note 7 in terms of size. At this point, this phone is understandably less well-spec'd out compared to a Galaxy Note 7, but performance is negligible in basic tasks such as Facebook, Chrome, or light gaming. At this price point though, there is a much better option if you're going for pure price to performance ratio, and that would be the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4, which I did review over on gizchina.com. But if you must have a 6-inch phone, this is not bad. You do get only a 720p screen, and the cameras themselves are not bad, but other than that, it's a mostly great smartphone that will be compelling to anyone looking for a large display. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to hit like and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.